and welcome to South Asia Today, a show that provides you the glimpses of South Asia. I'm your host Shivangi Mishra. Let's begin with the headlines first. Pakistan at 75 on the verge of economic collapse. Teachers stage anti-government protests in Gilgit-Baltistan. And people in India celebrate Diwali with religious fervour. Let's begin the show. The International Monetary Fund recently heaped praise on India for facing unfavorable economic headwinds as the world braces for market-damaging events unfolding at a rapid pace. Let's dive deeper into India's economic story.
A recession looms and is expected to have a global impact, from major developed economies to those just emerging. The annual conference of the International Monetary Fund and the World Bank featured many discussions about the state of the world economy. With the Russia-Ukraine crisis escalating to almost nuclear threats, oil prices spiking the world over, and general slowdown in consumption patterns, coupled with global high inflation, the mood was grim at this year's IMF meet, with fears of a recession looming large. However, amidst this gloom and doom, the IMF reserves special praise for India.
India deserves to be called a bright spot on this otherwise darker horizon because it has been a fast-growing economy even during these difficult times. But most importantly, this growth is underpinned by structural reforms.
India's path to a strong economic model to be emulated by the world has not been an easy one. Painstaking groundwork was implemented on a mission mode to make a large part of the population digitally compliant. The DBT, or Direct Benefit Transfer Scheme, which transfers government funds directly to beneficiaries without any interference from middlemen, also was a topic of praise by the IMF, calling it a logistical marvel.
If I look at the case of India, it is actually quite impressive. In fact, just because of the sheer size of the country, it's a logistical marvel how these programs that seek to help people who are at low income levels reach literally hundreds of millions of people.
In contrast to this success story of Digital India, we look at the German finance minister's recent comments when asked to conduct a similar exercise in his country. Prominent Twitter users were aghast that Germany had difficulty matching bank accounts with beneficiaries and that a process like India's DBT could take almost 18 months. One sector, however, that remains a worry for India is the dollar to rupee exchange rate. With the rupee breaching 82 rupees to a dollar, headlines across the Indian media landscape predict a doomsday scenario for the Indian rupee. However, if we dig a little deeper into the data behind the exchange rate fluctuation, we see that in 2022, the rupee depreciation has been a lot less than other Asian currencies, despite an increasing crude oil bill. Indian Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman reiterated this fact on her recent trip to Washington, D.C. Let's listen in.
I think Indian rupee has performed much better than many other emerging market currencies. But I think the efforts are by the RBI more towards maintaining a certain, more towards seeing that there are not too much of volatility. It is not to intervene in the market to fix the value of rupee.
According to the World Economic Outlook published by the International Monetary Fund, India is projected to surpass Germany to become the fourth largest economy by financial year 2027. It also says that India would expand faster than Japan by financial year 2028. Political stability and attractiveness of the Indian economy as an investment destination for foreign multinationals can continue to drive structural flows into the country via foreign direct investment. This will further strengthen the country's strong economic foundation. While the world was still rebuilding from the COVID-19 pandemic and its aftershocks, India took a massive leap on the economic front when it recently surpassed the United Kingdom in terms of nominal GDP. Observers say that a tripartite foundation consisting of a resolute political will to make difficult decisions for the greater good, swift implementation of fiscal objectives, and a development strategy based on science and technology has yielded rich dividends for the country. As countries brace for economic headwinds, the Indian growth story continues to march on. As the IMF put it, India remains a bright spot in a dark horizon.
Moving on. Pakistan is currently facing worst economic collapse due to political unrest in the country. The country was recently forced to plead for Western assistance in order to help over 30 million suffering citizens who were rendered homeless by unprecedented flooding. The country's international creditors are factoring in the potential of a default on a bond that is due in December, a little over 1 month from now, because the debt load alone is so heavy. A report.
In its 75 years of existence, one would expect Pakistan to step out of the shadows of partition, embrace its demographic dividend, and chart a course for economic prosperity. However, the opposite has happened. Pakistan is currently facing one of its worst economic crises in its history. Pakistan was recently forced to plead for Western assistance in order to help over 30 million suffering citizens who were rendered homeless by unprecedented flooding. Due to years of economic mismanagement, Pakistan has been hanging off of a cliff, on the verge of financial default for months, despite making bailout commitments to the Paris Club, which are a group of developed countries that help defaulting nations with their loans, and to the International Monetary Fund. The country's new finance minister, Ishaq Dar, speaking in Washington, D.C. recently, said that he will seek the rescheduling of some 27 billion USD worth of non-Paris Club debt, largely owed to China, but will not pursue haircuts as part of any restructuring. It is hard to believe the new Pakistani finance minister's remarks, especially as he is also an accused in corruption cases in his own country. And the anger against him is palpable, even amongst the Pakistani diaspora living abroad, as was evident when videos of Ishaq Dar being heckled in Washington, D.C.'s Dulles Airport went viral.
The progress so far, after the meetings with the World Bank, IMF, and the bilaterals and also a roundtable on floods in Pakistan, our losses, our needs have been very, very positive. They have been very forthcoming. Both the multilateral donors as well as the bilateral friends and partners.
At a time when global markets and geopolitics are racked with instability, Pakistan is facing a deflating economy and spiraling inflation. The country's international creditors are factoring in the potential of a default on a bond that is due in December, a little over 1 month from now, because the debt load alone is so heavy. For example, Moody's, the bond credit rating business, cut Pakistan's sovereign credit rating by 1 notch further into junk territory to CAA1 from B3, one of the weakest among sovereign nations. Moody's rating was followed by outlook downgrades in July by 2 other rating agencies, Fitch and S&P Global, both of whom flagged similar issues. Foreign exchange reserves at the State Bank of Pakistan stood at 7.9 billion USD. This amount would barely cover imports for 1 month in Pakistan.
We will be moving forward to undertake the reforms, structural reforms, and do the needful so that we successfully complete the IMF program second time.
Since the beginning of the year, the Pakistani rupee has lost 30% of its value, and as of October, the Pakistani rupee is at its lowest rate ever. The decline in currency is pushing up the cost of imports, borrowing, and debt servicing, and is in turn further exacerbating inflation, which is already at a multi-decade high of 27.3%. Another South Asian country, Sri Lanka, has defaulted on its debt, and the president and government were toppled in widespread protests caused by the economic crisis. Pakistan's leaders have not been able to improve the country's economic situation, and there are serious speculations that Pakistan may follow a similar fate to Sri Lanka.
Now let's take a look at a few happenings in Asia in a segment called Asia Watch. South Korean Marines in amphibious armored vehicles waded ashore under the guns of patrolling warships as part of large-scale military exercises that organizers said were necessary to prepare for any North Korean threats. The amphibious landing exercise held near Pohang on South Korea's east coast is part of the 12-day Hoguk 22 field exercises, which included some drills with US troops, such as a river crossing exercise last week. North Korea has condemned the drills for raising tensions and has test-fired rockets and artillery in response. The US, Japan and South Korea warned on Wednesday that an unparalleled scale of response would be warranted if North Korea conducts a seventh nuclear bomb test, which Washington and its allies believe Pyongyang could resume soon for the first time since 2017. Dog lovers of Nepal honored canines by putting garlands around their necks and indulging them with treats to celebrate a Hindu festival highlighting the loyalty of dogs to humans. At a dog shelter in Lalitpur, a city on the outskirts of the capital Kathmandu, volunteers, residents and tourists took part in Kukur Tihar, a ceremony that takes place on the second day of a 5-day Hindu festival to animals associated with Yamraj, the god of death and justice. The tradition originates in Nepal, where street dogs are prevalent and dog welfare is struggling. In Nepal, dog welfare is receiving more widespread attention. There are an estimated 20,000 stray dogs in the Kathmandu Valley alone. Authorities in Pokhara has been microchipping canines, while the Kathmandu City Council has launched dog management campaigns to control the stray population. Technology has become a major part of everyone's lives. Recently, Japanese ICT company NTT Communications organized an annual business forum. NTT Communications is contributing to industrial progress by utilizing its ICT solutions, including 5G. Toru Maruoka, president of NTT Communications, said that the ICT company needs to provide a safe environment for communication to cope with a strong and active society in the future. The highlight of this forum was a new solution using 5G. The forest industry's goal was to keep the forest environment maintained despite labor power shortages. To solve this, NTT Communications introduced a system of forest industry never step into the forest. Under this, the grass-cutting machine will be controlled by an ICT device. Global Navigation Satellite System provides precise GPS information. In the case of smartphones or car navigation systems, GPS information has several meters of measurement error. To realize a convenient and safe life in the near future, NTT Communications technology is essential. Panasonic introduces H2 Field, a demonstrative experiment at the Kusatsu factory in Shiga Prefecture. 3 storage batteries, pure hydrogen fuel cell generators and photovoltaic generators together can provide appropriate control and a stable supply of electricity. Panasonic says that it is the world's first demonstration to prove that 100% of the electricity consumed by a factory can be powered entirely by hydrogen from renewable sources. It also declared green impact to contribute to decreasing carbon dioxide emissions. By 2030, the carbon dioxide emissions of Panasonic business companies will be zero, and by 2050, it will decrease by 1% of the world's CO2 emissions. Panasonic is developing home appliances with the latest technology. In addition, it has been conducting research and development of home fuel cell, NA farm and hydrogen technology.
Many companies are now looking for solutions to achieve RE100, that is, a global initiative to 100% renewable electricity. Panasonic's one-stop solution aims for a global decrease in CO2 emissions.
Let's move to Gilgit-Baltistan, a region under Pakistan's illegal occupation, where the people working in public and private sectors are fed up with the government policies. The teachers in the region are protesting over the failure to get timely promotions, and they have been demanding their rights by registering a protest. We have this report.
These teachers should have been in their classrooms, but they are forced to protest due to the government's policies. Having been trying to get promotions even after meeting the eligibility criteria, the teacher said the prevalence of corruption and nepotism in the system, as well as a political intervention, is keeping them devoid of their rights. The teachers are complaining that Pakistan's Higher Education Commission is using tactics to delay their promotions. They keep promising, but nothing has been done, even after waiting for months.
जैसे किसी भी गवर्नमेंट इंस्टीट्यूशन में ये होता है कि जब आप किसी को इंडक्शन देते हैं, ये बेसिक एम्प्लॉय राइट है कि आप उनको स्पेसिफिक एक टाइम के बाद उनकी प्रमोशन करें, ठीक है। तो जब आप यूनिवर्सिटी की बात करते हैं तो देखें आप यूनिवर्सिटी में बहुत से हमारे फैकल्टी ऐसी है, ऑल पाकिस्तान अगर हम बात करें 40,000 यूनिवर्सिटी में फैकल्टी ऐसी है जो एक ही स्केल में बैठी हुई है पिछले 15-20 सालों से, तकरीबन रिटायरमेंट के एज तक पहुंच चुके हैं, ठीक है। तो कोई रोड मैप नहीं है, कोई पॉलिसी नहीं है जिसमें प्रमोशन पॉलिसी होनी चाहिए। हमारा ये एहतजाज है कि बेसिक क्राइटेरिया जो हम मीट करके भी बहुत से हमारे फैकल्टी है इंतज़ार कर रही है, फिर भी हमें अगेन एंड अगेन सिलेक्शन बोर्ड के सामने जाना पड़ रहा है।
The authorities have given many deadlines to the teachers and conducted dozens of meetings to resolve the issue. The teachers from Gilgit-Baltistan have even protested at different cities and the press clubs across Pakistan to register their demand, but the government acts as deaf and dumb. Government institutions have spawned a culture where recruitment is made based on personal acquaintances and sectarian lines. Credentials are rarely taken into consideration when it comes to promoting someone.
हमारा जो मेन जो मुतालिबा है वो ये है कि बीपीएस फैकल्टी के लिए सर्विस स्ट्रक्चर नहीं होने की वजह से यहाँ जो मनपसंद लोगों को प्रमोट किया जा रहा है। यहाँ लोग पीएचडीज, हमारे टीचर बरादरी ने पीएचडीज भी की हैं, रिसर्च भी प्रोफाइल भी है, हर लिहाज से तमाम रिक्वायरमेंट पूरे होने के बावजूद हमें टाइमली प्रमोट नहीं किया जाता है, जिसकी वजह से बहुत सारे टीचर्स ऐसे हैं जो 20-20 साल से पढ़ा रहे हैं और उनको उसी ग्रेड में बैठे हुए 18 में, कोई 19 में, 12-12, 15-15 साल से बैठे हुए। तो हमने जो मुतालिबात है इन रिटर्न हमने HSC में जमा कराए।
Gilgit-Baltistan has a poor education infrastructure where lack of schools and teachers is common. If there are teachers in schools and colleges, they don't get timely promotions and facilities, which hampers the education. No matter how much solidarity Islamabad expresses with the people of illegally occupied Gilgit-Baltistan, the reality on the ground remains contrary to its claims.
And finally, it's a festival season in India where people are celebrating the occasion, Diwali. The festival of lights was celebrated with great pomp and gaiety. Though the core reason behind the celebration remains the same, that is victory of good over evil, one can witness several unique ways in which it is observed across the country. Let's take a look at how the people celebrated the festival with shopping, lights and prayers. Fireworks adorn the sky during Diwali, the auspicious festival of lights. Diwali commemorates the homecoming of Hindu Lord Ram to Ayodhya in northern India after his victory over Ravan, the powerful demon king of Sri Lanka. The festival preparations and rituals typically extend over a 5-day period, but the night of Diwali corresponds to the new moon night of the Hindu lunisolar month Kartik. According to the Hindu mythology, it is also celebrated in honor of Lakshmi, the Hindu goddess of wealth and prosperity.
मैं दिवाली ਅੰਮ੍ਰਿਤਸਰ ਵਿੱਚ ਮਨਾ ਰਹੀ ਹਾਂ ਆਪਣੇ ਆਪ ਨੂੰ ਬਹੁਤ ਖੁਸ਼ਕਿਸਮਤ ਸਮਝਣਾ ਚਾਹੁੰਦੀ ਹਾਂ ਵੀ ਬਾਬਾ ਜੀ ਨੇ ਮੈਨੂੰ ਇੱਥੇ ਬੁਲਾਇਆ ਹੈ ਮੈਂ ਬਹੁਤ ਟਾਈਮ ਤੋਂ ਸੋਚ ਰਹੀ ਸੀ ਮੈਂ ਦਿਵਾਲੀ ਆਪਣੀ ਅੰਮ੍ਰਿਤਸਰ ਵਿੱਚ ਜਾ ਕੇ ਮਨਾਵਾਂ ਮੈਂ ਫਸਟ ਟਾਈਮ ਆਪਣੀ ਦਿਵਾਲੀ ਇੱਥੇ ਅੰਮ੍ਰਿਤਸਰ ਵਿੱਚ ਮਨਾਉਣਾ
During the festivity, people decorated their homes with lights, earthen lamps and candles. People believe that Goddess Lakshmi enters those homes on Diwali which are clean and brightly lit with earthen lamps. Also, as a goodwill gesture, people exchanged gifts, sweets and visited their friends and relatives.
दीपावली ये भाईचारे का त्यौहार है जिसको हम सभी लोग हंसी खुशी से बड़े धूमधाम से मनाते हैं। ये 5 दिन का त्यौहार होता है। इसमें पहले दिन धन त्रयोदशी, आज रूप चतुर्दशी है। रूप चतुर्दशी के दिन महिलाएं सज धज के तैयार होती है।
Though Diwali celebrations are almost the same across the country, there are few places where its festivities have a completely different touch. The one that tops the list is Ayodhya, the birthplace of Lord Ram. This holy land observes a grand Deepotsav as a part of the Diwali celebration. More than 15.76 lakh earthen lamps were lit at the Ram Ki Paidi on the last day of the Deepotsav celebrations and has entered the Guinness Book of World Records. Entire India is bathed in the soft glow of light and warmth emanating from every household, making it a truly wondrous sight to behold. It's time for me to wrap up today's episode. We will be back next week at the same time. This is Shivangi Mishra, signing off on the behalf of the entire production team of South Asia Today. Goodbye and take care.